Here's another AI Roundup. Welcome back to the channel. It's been a wild ride through the ever-changing world of AI and tech. From deep dives into the limits of artificial intelligence and the challenges of AGI, the massive infrastructure investments and some surprising product experiments. I've been watching everything from strategic talks to industry titans and hands-on experiments. There's been a lot to go through this week. I did a check and there's been 18 different pieces of content and about 500 minutes, which is almost 9 hours of content that I've just listened and watched, not alone read. So here we go. Here's the first chunk of the summary. One thread running through a lot of the content is an honest look at where AI is today, its evolving capabilities and where we expect it to go. For instance, Jeff Kroom's discussion on the limits of AI, generative AI, NLP, AGI, and what's next reminded me that while AI has made huge leaps like Deep Blue versus Kasparov earlier on, when Deep Blue is the chess playing machine, Watson on Jeopardy, if anyone remembers that, IBM Watson was the big AI thing 15 years ago, I would say, 12 years ago. And then we had AlphaGo, which was the AI that could beat the Korean Go players, not just at chess. And we're still facing challenges like hallucinations in generative models, limited real-time perception, and sustainability concerns remain hot topics because it's a lot of energy used to do this. There's data centers that are trying to be built everywhere. This, as I mentioned in the podcast yesterday with someone, this is the opposite of a green initiative. We are trying to get as much compute power as possible, more than anything combined in humanity before, as new data centers. Like, it's ridiculous. There was another talk which offered a similar analysis comparing the current breakthroughs with long-term hurdles like continual learning. So this was Dwakesh Patel. His views paint a picture of a race towards AGI, that's what everyone's trying to do. They're trying to get to AGI because really the first one that gets that, which they think is artificial general intelligence or artificial superintelligence, ASI as they're starting to coin it, will sort of like run away from everyone else, especially if they don't tell everyone else how they're doing it and how they're getting there. The problem is it still lacks context and learning on the job. It's only pre-trained, so it doesn't know what you're doing. It can only have sort of memories and you inject that into its context as you go, and that's what RAG, so retrieval, augmented generation, or just like context stuffing ends up being. Another interesting perspective came from Anthropic's deep dive into Claude 4.5, where after a week-long experiment, the improvement in speed, context editing, and integration with developer tools like VS Code stood out. I've given it a go. It's a pretty good model. In the process that we're following, it seemed to have achieved every task needed in the small subset of tests that I gave it, along with GPT-5 Pro in Codex. So I've been testing those a bit and trying to get some different results out and seeing how they actually work in code. Strategic partnerships and infrastructure investments. There was a lot of things happening this week with the investment side, especially on OpenAI and NVIDIA. So NVIDIA invested in OpenAI, AMD invested in OpenAI, and then someone else is invested in Anthropic, and then OpenAI is buying all the chips back from AMD and NVIDIA, so their money is just going in circles. Turning the spotlight into the business world, a number of videos highlighted the game-changing partnerships and investments with OpenAI with AMD, which is the biggest in AMD's history. Apparently it's a 6 gigawatt chip build out and then stock options, so then OpenAI can then end up owning 10% in AMD if they hit their performance targets and acquire and pay for all the things that they're meant to do. And then there's NVIDIA and OpenAI, which apparently is the biggest infrastructure project in history. It's apparently 10 gigawatts of compute and worth about $100 billion. And then there was a chat with NVIDIA CEO on CNBC that I watched, which he's talked about how he shifted from CPU to GPU. And that's really what's entered pushing this drive forward. And the massive investments aren't just headlines, they're really reshaping how everything's moving forward, because the investment is for the infrastructure that will continue to get used, not be put in the ground effectively and then left there for years. AI in business, startups, and workflow transformations. On the early startup and enterprise side, Aaron Levy's fireside chat about why startups in an AI era really resonated. Aaron draws parallels between the transition from cloud and the computing AI wave, whether it's pivoting business strategies or experimenting with AI content tools. Startups are positioned to disrupt established players using AI powers. And yes, they can, because now development is available to anyone really with these tools. Like, you don't have to be a developer to develop, but you're not going to get good code. You're not going to get production ready code. We're still far a ways off from that. We've seen that with people that we've been working with, generating code, writing things for months. There's a lot of mess in the code that needs to be cleaned up and worked on, but it's a phenomenal result for what people can do who don't know what they're doing. So, yeah, of course, they can disrupt because now it's faster, cheaper, and easier to get somewhere, and you can compete with a bigger product because you don't need as big a team. I also watched some experiments where someone was testing ChatGPT Pulse as a startup founder and trying to get information. However, from his experience and what I've experienced with it, it just gives you information based on chats that you're having. Whether those chats have finished and you're no longer interested in it, it still gives you information. Sort of like when you see an ad online, you've bought the product and you're still seeing ads for it. There's no way to say, yeah, I bought this, fuck off, don't give me those ads anymore. Similar thing to this, I use it in a variety of different ways. A lot of it is help me reformat this, help convert this to this, things like that. When I'm doing that, I then don't need a update in my pulse from ChatGPT every day telling me about the newest transitions in data transformation tools, because that's not what I'm interested in. That was a single utilitarian chat that shouldn't be included. So until you can start fine-tuning how those chats get included or don't get included and start pushing those signals, I think it's going to be okay, not good. Transformation in productivity isn't just about big strategic moves, it's also about the day-to-day evolution of technology in our hands. OpenAI's Dev Day, which was this week, which they released GPT apps. So now apps are integrated inside of ChatGPT, so you can open Canva within it, or like watch Udemy courses inside of ChatGPT, pause the video and chat to the model about the video it's watching. So they've released that apps SDK. They also released their agent builder, which is an NAN Zapier Make equivalent of platform that lets you connect nodes to create agents. They did a demo on the day where they released a chat agent for their dev day. Doesn't have as many connectors as those other tools, so those tools think they have a moat. However, I think they're going to end up getting in trouble at some point simply because OpenAI is going to have all those connectors because they want to have all your data so they can give you more information, and then they're going to be in trouble because you can build those automations and have the agents directly in there. So the moat that those tools have, I think, is not going to be something that's going to be sticking around for too long. And then Anthropic Claude 4.5, it wasn't just a speed boost, but enhanced context editing. So apparently it can edit its own context and know what to take out and what to leave in. So it can try and minimize how much stuff is in there and reduce the bloat so it can continue working in the same chain or conversation automatically. So that's cool to see that they're starting to think about that, because that's important. You don't want to then have to say, all right, we're almost near the limit, scrap it, start again, because you lose a lot of context and time in doing that because you have to rebuild the context again. So that's an interesting take that they started to think about that. And then Sam Altman, there was a chat with him talking about how he didn't think a fully vertically integrated company was great before he started ChatGPT, but now after ChatGPT, he understands that that's probably ideal, similar to the Apple model where everything's in one. So that's going to be the direction ChatGPT is going. They're going to be the general app for everything, and as long as they're general, they'll be okay because you can't niche, and then you're not going to be able to help everyone. So there's still going to be a market for niche apps because they're solving different problems. Not everything in the AI world is smooth sailing. A particularly alarming incident came from a video where it said the AI industry is not well. This was a video that was talking about the Mecha Hitler incident on X and the processes and procedures that X follow when they released their Grok model, and it went full line to everyone, was going with Nazi personas, etc. Apparently someone changed something in the system prompt and they didn't even know about it, so their procedures are a bit lax on that, I would say. They've solved for that now, but it was just a good breakdown of how it happened and what the actual impact or how fast it spread through the internet, and everyone was going on and gaming it to say one way or the other. It could go both ways. It wasn't just pro-Hitler, it was against Hitler, but the pro ones are more shocking, so that's what everyone hears about. Elon Musk's was originally the founder of OpenAI. His vision was, you have to be careful with AI, but if it's going to take over, I might as well join it rather than sit by and watch. And that's why they've raced ahead to get Grok out, and it's one of the near leading class models in what they've been able to do. And they've got the whole network of Twitter available to them, or X. So they're in a better position to collect new data compared to other people. So they've been able to race ahead and get there. And then as you do, you go fast, you break things. So they just have to fix it and correct things. And that's what they've been doing. Finally, a recurring theme in several of these talks is the intersection of AI, energy policy, and long-term planning. Sam Altman and Dwakesh Patel both highlighted the critical role of abundant low-cost energy from nuclear to renewables in powering the future of AI. It's all going to be power. Everything is just energy and needs power to run all these models for inference to then work out and respond to you. Sam Altman in the chat, they was talking about, I think it was the A16Z podcast he was on. I'm not an excellent podcast host, but one of them was pretty bad. It just like a lot of dead air in that episode. That's what I can remember off the top of my head. It wasn't really good flowing. Sam Altman was saying his interest for energy and AI and didn't think they were going to intersect. And one of the detrimental things he thinks happened in the US was them banning or stepping away from nuclear power after the sort of big incidents that happened, Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, because they really put behind what they're doing. But now that's where everyone thinks they have to go, because that's the most cleanest kind of energy outside of what solar can do, or potentially those windmills, which don't generate as much, but then they've got other implications with storing and the construction, etc. With the rising demands in AI infrastructure, so we talked about that 6 gigawatt and 10 gigawatt computing deals with AMD and NVIDIA, like that's huge amount of power is going to be needed to do that. And that's why this is such a big conversation. It's AI and energy together. It's not just about scaling technology, it's also about reshaping our energy policies and exploring new economic models to sustain this growth. The forward-looking conversation underscores the future of AI is about as much as infrastructure and policy as it is about clever algorithms. Lots of technical challenges and groundbreaking product demos, huge infrastructure investments, and important ethical debates is what we sort of took on this week. Demo day, again, something new was released. As always, new release, but not a new model, just new features inside of the main platform. There's a lot there. As usual, it's hard to keep up with this stuff. Some days I don't want to do it. I know I need to, so I'm doing that. And this is forcing me to try and have that consistency to be able to record these videos and then have enough stuff to talk about and try and trigger my memory. Don't remember everything. It's impossible, but hopefully this has helped someone get some interest or at least touched upon a topic that they want to then go dive further that they didn't know about that happened this week. As usual, if you have any ideas on how I can improve this video or anything that'll make it a bit more engaging, I'm not sure, let me know in the comments. If you want to find out more about a specific topic, let me know and then I can make a specific video on that. Otherwise, good luck keeping up with everything as usual.